Okay, so the Zambian government is examining the relationship between wage levels and the job risk to understand how to set policies that improve worker welfare. They are particularly interested in how wages adjust to different levels of job risk and how these adjustments impact workers' utilities. The government has decided to introduce a minimum wage policy and needs an analysis of its effects. Okay, so we've got this utility function. Okay, utility just measures satisfaction. So in this case, we're going to be talking about job satisfaction. All right. Then we've got the wage function. Okay, this gives us the wage, where R represents the risk level of the job. Okay, so part A, calculate the utility for a worker when the risk level R is 5. Show your calculations. Okay. So yes, basically in this question, we're trying to see the relationship between satisfaction and the risk level. All right. Your job satisfaction and the risk level attached to your job. Right. So part A, this is what we're going to do. We need to find the utility when the risk level R is 5. So first things first, we need to get the wage. Okay, because before you can get the utility, have you seen this W in this utility function? This W represents the wage. So we need to get the wage first, then we can tabulate the utility. Okay, so I'll put here solutions. All right, so once say wage equals 120 plus 2R. R equals 5, so we're going to substitute R with 5. So 120 plus 2 times 5. So 120 plus 5 times 2, that is 10. 120 plus 10, that is 130. Okay, so when the risk level is 5, okay, the wage is 130 kwacha, $130. Right? Now we need to calculate the utility U. U equals W open brackets 100 minus 5R. So W is 130 with 100 minus 5. R is still 5, so we substitute R with 5. Okay. So we're going to say 130 open brackets 100 minus 5 times 5, that is 5. 100 minus 25, that is, oh, it's 15R here. Sorry, it's 15R. 15. So 15 times 5, that is 75. 100 minus 75, that is 25. So 130 times 25, we get 3,250. Yes, so this is the satisfaction, the utility. Okay. When the risk level is 5 and the wage is 130, this is the satisfaction. That is part A. Any questions before we go to part B? Okay. Part B. Determine the wage for a worker when the risk level is 8. Show your calculations. Okay. So determine the wage when the risk level is 8. So remember, we've still got the wage function here. Wage equals 120 plus 2R. All right. So we're going to see 120 plus 2 multiplied by R. R is 8, right? So 120 plus 16. So the wage is 136. Okay. Now let's also see, the question is not asking us this, but as you are going to see in part D, okay, you are going to see, well, we're going to be analyzing the relationship between risk and utility, okay, and also the risk and wages, okay. So as we've seen, when the risk goes up, also the wage goes up, right? So we can see there's a positive relationship between the risk and the wage. But what about the risk and the utility? Okay. Let's see what is our new utility when the risk goes up. So utility, remember it's a W 100 minus 15R. Okay. So our wage is 136. It's 100 minus 15 times our risk over 8. What is 15 times 8? 120. 100 times, 100 minus 120, negative 20. Negative 20 multiplied by 136. Okay, so we can see here that when the risk goes up, yes, the wage goes up, but the satisfaction is going down. Have you seen? Initially, when the risk was 5, satisfaction was 3,250. Now the risk has gone to 8, satisfaction has now become negative. Okay, so let's go to part C. If the government introduces a minimum wage of 150, demonstrate how this policy affects the wage function and the utility of workers with a risk level of R equals 8. Show your calculations and discuss the implications. All right, so government has introduced a minimum wage of 150. Okay, so this wage function will still stay the same. Wage still stays, it's going to be just 150. 50. That is the minimum wage. All right. Risk level is still 8. R equals 8. Okay. Let's see what's going to happen to our utility function here. Okay. So we're going to say U equals W 100 minus 15 R. So we already did this tabulation. 15 times 8, that is 120. 100 minus 120, that's negative 20. So 150 times negative 120, negative 3,000. So we've seen the risk level has still stayed the same. Okay. Government has increased the wage because remember earlier on the wage was 136. Okay. Utility was negative 2,720. Now the wage increases, the minimum wage increases from 136 to 150. But notice the risk still stays the same. The risk hasn't changed. And the satisfaction of the workers has dropped more. Okay. Imagine that. They have given you a, they've increased your wage, but the risk still stays the same. Okay. So your satisfaction is going to still drop. Okay. And what we're going to notice is this: the more you increase this wage, okay, the satisfaction is going to continue dropping, even though the whilst the risk stays constant. Okay. So they say this part. Um, Demonstrate how this policy affects the wage function. So how this policy affects the wage function? It increases the wage function, and that is a benefit to the workers. And how this policy affects the utility of workers. Now, even though the workers have got a higher pay, because the risk is still the same, their satisfaction is still going to drop. Okay. So basically, what we're saying is this: when governments want to introduce these minimum wage policies, they should also find ways of also trying to reduce the risks of the jobs. Okay, so that they can make the workers happy. Because yes, they made the workers happy on one point that the minimum wage has increased. Every person is happy when their salary increases. Yes, but in terms of job satisfaction, the job satisfaction is still going to drop. So, minimum wage policies shouldn't just focus on increasing only the minimum wage. They should also focus on alleviating the risks and the conditions of the workers. Okay? Yes, so we can say this. When government introduced the minimum wage, the wage function increased as the workers' pay increased from 136 to 150. That's the good side about it. But the disadvantage is that the satisfaction of the workers decreased further, okay, from negative 2,720 to negative 3,000. So this basically tells us that when government introduces minimum wage, they should also focus on the risk of the job in order to increase the satisfaction of the workers. Okay, they shouldn't just focus on the money amount of the minimum wage. No, they should also focus on reducing the risks of the jobs. Okay, so that worker satisfaction can be made better. All right. Okay.